to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ebro. It's Laura Rosenberg, and today's guest, my friend, you know her as one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. Give it up for Patrisse Cullors. You know what I'm saying? Author, speaker, you know what I mean? Philanthropist, all of that. Welcome to the program. How are you, Smiley? Look at you glowing.
I'm doing well. It's just so good to see y'all. It's really been like years since I've been on, and I'm so grateful to be here to talk to y'all. And I'm doing well here in sunny Los Angeles, California.
Well, you know, when there were so many controversies and things around you, and you guys were doing so much work, and you know, whether it was last summer with the protests and just all the work that you've done. And the movement you started, I'm not one of those friends that's gonna be like, yo, I need to interview you right now. I usually hit Patrisse like, yo, you feel like talking or not? And she'll kind of be like, I'll let you later. There's a lot going on, bro. But you're with us today, and because you've launched a new venture down in Southern California that you want to tell the world about. What's that all about?
Thank you so much, Ebro. Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't know that I'm an artist, and I really, you know, I've been an artist for as long as I can remember. I've been an artist since I was a small child. And
when you say artist, you're not talking music. You're talking art.
Yeah, performance.
I'm talking fine art. Yeah. And so a couple things. One, I run an actual fine art program. I started an MFA program in January of 2020. So literally right before quarantine happened. I launched an MFA program where I have about 30 grad students that I work with that are all fine artists, from painting to performance art to sculpture. I have folks who are creative writers. So this is work that I was doing, even before I became a young political activist. And so also in 2020, and in March of 2020, actually, I launched the Crenshaw Dairy Mart, which is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a former Dairy Mart off of Inglewood in Inglewood on Manchester and Crenshaw. And I launched it with two of my buddies that I went to school with. I graduated from an MFA program at USC. And my childcare provider actually was trying to make a children's center out of the Crenshaw Dairy Mart. It fell through. Very hard to get permits in Inglewood, everybody, for childcare. But what we ended up deciding is we wanted to create an art program. We wanted to have an art gallery and studio. And so the Crenshaw Dairy Mart has two spaces. One space is an art studio where there's 5 artists, and the other space is an actual gallery. And then we have a huge parking lot where we've done Juneteenth programming. And more recently, we developed a sculpture garden called an abolitionist pod, a prototype that we were able to install at the Mocha Geffen in downtown. And now we're going to be taking this abolitionist pod over to one of the first transitional housing villages for houseless people. That's right across the street from the jails. I spent a lot of my early organizing years organizing at the Men's Central Jail in Twin Towers, where both my sibling and father spent a significant amount of time incarcerated in. And so it's kind of a full circle moment for me.
So many people listening right now may not know what's going on in Inglewood in the Crenshaw area. And the reason this Dairy Mart was even available, I don't know if you want to speak to the gentrification and just the prices of living and everything going on in that area with the new stadium being built. And there's just a lot of upheaval from, many generations that have lived in the area not being able to afford the area, and why this Crenshaw Dairy Mart is so important as kind of a glue for that community.
Yeah, I mean, all of South Central really is going through a pretty intense moment right now when it comes to gentrification. I wouldn't say that we are in our Brooklyn moment yet. I think there's been a significant amount of organizing, and I think a lot of people have been challenging the the gentrification of South Central, whether it's Mart Park or Baldwin Hills or you know, proper South Central where I'm at right now, off of 74th and Normandy. There's, you know, a ton of gentrifying in the neighborhood. So there's been a big group of organizing, Black folks organizing to push back against that. But I also think that, you know, there's a long history of Black art inside of South Central. Whether it's the Brockman Gallery, two brothers who, you know, started a gallery in Mart Park, Samel Lewis and her museum of Black art that still exists in the Crenshaw Mall. There is a long history of Black artists who are a huge staple in the community. And so we feel like, you know, we're part of that legacy of Black artists inside of South Central. And there's contemporary artists now who are holding it down, such as Lauren Halsey. You might have seen her work. Amazing sister from South Central who has a community center called Summit Everything in South Central, or Rick from the Residency, who also has a gallery in Inglewood. So there's also a rising group of Black artists who are saying, you know, we are going to counter how art usually comes inside of our communities, right? Usually when you see an art gallery come in, that means gentrification is coming. And so what we're trying to do is actually root back down into the community and remind people that art doesn't have to be a gentrifying force. We can actually work in tandem together to help support and uplift the community.
To people watching this right now who know you as the face of the Black Lives Matter movement, does this mean that you're no longer, you know, working with that greater Black Lives Matter organization, or are you still doing both?
No, I'm no longer with Black Lives Matter. As of, I think it was May 28th, the end of May, I stepped down. I transitioned out of BLM. I've been a frontline community organizer for 20 years, which when I started frontline organizing when I was 16 years old, I did not. Well, I did. I wanted to be in organizing for as long as I could be. But I also believe it's time. It's always time for people to transition and let new leadership come into being. And the only way you can let new leadership come in is if you step aside. And so I'm really spending the next 20 years of my work focusing on Black creatives and lifting up Black creativity, whether that's with the Crenshaw Dairy Mart or with my Warner Brothers deal, where I'm working on developing TV right now. And so that feels like an important moment for me.
And what do you say to people who questioned, you know, you and I giggled about this because people thought like you shouldn't be able to buy a home or any of your work shouldn't have, you know, the fruits of your labor. You know, many people have been critical of you, right? Saying that, you know, money made in Black Lives Matter went to your pockets. In your own words, how can you articulate to help people better understand? Because, you know, people have tried to villainize you in many ways.
Yeah, I'll start by saying, number one, that's illegal. So nonprofits can't funnel donations to individuals. So that's just a straight up lie, literally. And it was a lie that was proliferated by the right-wing media. And if you are a child of history, and if you understand how social movements work and how people interrupt social movements, you would understand that that's part of what happened to me. I'm not an anomaly, unfortunately. There's a long legacy of assassinating people physically and also assassinating people's character. So I just want to name that. But I think the other thing is that there's a long history of Black folks buying homes and land as part of developing generational wealth and stability. And I think that is in every person's right, but especially Black people's right, to try to secure the future, especially the future of their descendants.
But you also, I mean, you do speaking, you write books, like you're an author. You get paid to write books. You get paid to do speaking engagements, I guess.
Yes.
you're not allowed to use that money for your own investment in it.
Nothing. There's no money. Now, let me ask you a question I'm curious about. I know that you've moved away professionally from Black Lives Matter, but I know I'm an ignorant white man who's lived in privilege for far too long. But even I was surprised that the term Black Lives Matter has been flipped into, it's been so weaponized by the racist right. It really, like, I have like a sticker. I have like a Black Lives Matter sticker on my laptop. And if it pops up on my TV show on sports station and certain people see it, they freak out. It's like having a swastika to these people, except they probably wouldn't be offended by a swastika. Anyways, does it surprise you at all to see that it was twisted that badly, the words Black Lives Matter?
I think it's a good question. What did it surprise me? I don't know if it surprised me, but I definitely think that, you know, when we started BLM, it was done with such innocence and such love and passion to change the world. Literally, it was done in all of sort of like young, you know, millennial angst and love and a push to this country. But I'm a historian of social movements, especially Black social movements. So I know how it goes. I think it was shocking to be the subject of right-wing abuse, for sure, and to see how far they would weaponize it. But I think the other thing that's important for people is to know that, you know, BLM polled well. They knew it needed to be weaponized because we were winning and we are winning. And so that always, unfortunately, comes with the territory when you're trying to transform the very conditions that people have grown up in.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrisse. When people say BLM, I always correct them and I say Black Lives Matter, right? Because I feel like when it's just the letters, I feel like it doesn't. And as you pointed out, it was something that was created out of love. It was something that was created out of reminding individuals that the lives of Black people matter. Like that term, you know, in the face of constant violence from the white supremacist institutions and the fabric of greater society, that term, those words together, like for me, it was like, no, you got to say the words. You got to say Black Lives Matter. Like you got to say those three words. Mm-hmm. Don't just give me the letters. The acronym ain't doing it for me. Am I off base on that or
no? I think that's correct. And I think you know,
you might want to give Patrisse a pass, though, you know, because she invented it.
Well, no. That's why I'm asking, because she invented it. I wasn't saying it for her. I was just saying it for those, you know, because I feel like when they go to weaponize it, they always just use the three letters.
Absolutely.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, for sure.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when you say Black Lives Matter, how can you have a problem with those three words?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Like you can make up the acronym and be like, well, BLM. No. Say Black Lives Matter, fam. So I know exactly where you're at.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Patrisse, with the Black Lives Matter movement, it became very complicated. Well, to some of us, just because, help me understand, because I know that there were some people who were like, this chapter here is not associated with BLM here, Black Lives Matter here, and we're not associated. Like, what happened? Because I was under the impression it was all one unified group.
No, but nothing's ever unified.
Right. You're right. You're so right.
You know what I mean?
But explain to me, because I didn't understand how some people were just like very passionate about just kind of like distancing themselves from certain chapters and, and what happened.
Life happens. And I think it's very important for us to normalize conflict. And conflict doesn't always have to be bad. And conflict can actually be really generative. And once again, you know, history speaks for itself. All movements end up taking different directions because people evolve and grow. When we started BLM, it wasn't an organization. When we started Black Lives Matter, it wasn't an organization. We were saying a phrase, that developed into many people saying it, and eventually it turned into an organization. But you have to remember that, people were excited at the beginning with Black Lives Matter. So people started to use it in their own cities, not knowing that it was where it was started, where it came from. For a long time, people just thought that this, thing was invented on the internet by like the internet ghosts, and then once Black Lives Matter started to really become something, people started to realize, oh, well, I don't know if I want to be involved in Black Lives Matter, the organization, or if I want to do my own thing. But at that point, many people started to use it for their own purposes, sometimes nefarious purposes, but not all the time. And I think that's really normal. I think if we didn't have all the noise from the right, if we didn't have all the noise from, outside provocateurs, I think people would understand more. Oh, it's not that serious that there's all this conflict. Conflict is really, really normal. And I think part of what we have to learn how to figure out how to do inside of all of our movements, right? It's not just inside of Black Lives Matter. Every single movement deals with this, is how to deal with conflict, how to see it as a place for generative. My work in Los Angeles that I've been doing for decades, we have learned how to work in conflict, but we've also been working together. Much of the work I've been doing in LA is since I was a teenager. And so the people I've known people for almost 20 years. And so there's something really different when you've known someone for 20 years and something pops off versus knowing someone for 6 months or not knowing someone at all. You don't know what to believe or who to believe. So this is just, for me, time always gives more clarity. We're not going to really know, the motives behind the right, I think, for years to come, and why they chose to do some things and why certain people chose to listen to it. But I don't fault people. I think part of leadership is being compassionate towards people. And also part of being in leadership means that you can't let everything bother you all the time.
Powerful. Patrisse Cullors, check out her books. Also check out the Crenshaw. It's Crenshaw Dairy Market, correct?
Crenshaw Dairy Mart in Inglewood.
Mart, excuse me. But there's I've been to the website, which is phenomenally done. And it's Crenshaw Dairy Mart.
Yep.
.com. And support Patrisse, man, because whether you're not into buying art or whether you're not into supporting local galleries, what this woman has endured on behalf of Black folks, the conversation around the murdering of Black people and creating participating in creating a term that I think, there's Black Lives Matter all over the world at this point. Like, it is something that has, literally transcended. And how does that feel for you, Patrisse? Like, when you see those signs in, Taiwan and Thailand and Japan, you know what I mean? Like, talk about that feeling and what you and your counterparts that, started this. Do you guys still talk and talk about that transcendence of the phrase Black Lives Matter?
We do. And we're all doing really amazing things and different things. None of us are, excuse me, none of us are inside of Black Lives Matter anymore, inside of the organization. So we've an end of an era really happened, but it's powerful. It's powerful to see, I got to talk to all the leaders in Canada and all the leaders in the United Kingdom and, folks across Australia and folks inside of Sweden, that are really organizing around this term to make conditions better for Black people. And I just feel a lot of gratitude. I feel a lot of gratitude, and I feel like job well done. And I can go on and do the next round of work that I've always been doing, but that I love to do, which is, being inside of the world of Black creatives and Black artists.
Bravo, Patrisse. Bravo. Thank you so
Patrisse.
much for your time today.
Thank you, Patrisse.
Thank you, team.